The day the big earthquake hit down south, Sarah told me she had signed up for the hospital's relief team. She was leaving that same night. I helped her pack her bags, feeling pretty numb about it. As she was about to leave, I asked her, "Do you feel like you actually know who I am?" She just looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Never mind," I said. "Just be careful out there." The timing was just terrible. We were scheduled to go to City Hall this Thursday to get our marriage license. I had put in a lot of overtime just to get that afternoon off. This wasn't the first time she had canceled our plans, and I was starting to feel like we just weren't going to make it. Maybe she sensed I was upset, or maybe she just felt guilty about the timing, but Sarah called me at 11:30 p.m. on that Thursday night. It sounded like she had just remembered what day it was. Her voice was tired, and she kept apologizing. I was just staring at my computer screen, at a blank document. I'd been trying to write since 10 o'clock, but couldn't get more than a couple of lines down. Writer's block is a special kind of misery. Her call completely broke what little concentration I had, which honestly felt like a perfect summary of our relationship lately. I was really irritated, so I probably didn't sound very friendly. "It's fine. I get it," I said. "You should get some sleep." I was ready to hang up, but she quickly spoke up. "The hospital is giving me a few days off when I get back. We can go get the license then. I know you're not supposed to upset someone who is out there saving lives, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I had to end it. If I wasn't going to be in her future, I shouldn't let her keep messing up my schedule. My work is important too, Sarah. I don't think that's going to work." I said it as calmly as I could. "My reasons for taking time off won't involve you anymore." There was a long pause on her end. "What is that supposed to mean?" she finally asked. "It means we're done. We're breaking up," I said, just stating it as a fact. "We had some good years, and I really do hope things go well for you." Before she could argue, I hung up the phone. Then I blocked her number. To make it really final, I went on my banking app and removed her as a contact. Over the weekend, I gathered all of her belongings from my apartment and drove them over to her old place, which she still kept the lease on. I changed the code on my front door lock and deleted her fingerprint from the scanner. After that, I unblocked her number for just a minute. I sent her a single text telling her to go to her own apartment when she got back from the relief effort, not mine. Then I blocked her again. That night, she called me from a number I didn't recognize. Her voice was soft, and she started apologizing all over again. "Mark, I know I was wrong to postpone the license without talking to you. I just thought you would understand. I'm a doctor first." "I know," I said, my fingers making loud clicking noises on my keyboard as I tried to work. "I really do admire you for going out there to help. But if you think this is just about you postponing the license this one time, you're not getting it. You're just giving me a headache." I was losing my patience. "If you're just going to be this stubborn, then please don't call me. You're just ruining my night." Honestly, I would have been willing to be civil about the whole thing. But then I saw a post on social media from the company I used to work for, and it made me furious. The page was usually just celebrity gossip, but because the earthquake was such a big deal, they were covering that too. Still, the person running the account couldn't help themselves. They used a clickbait headline, something like, "Race Against Time. Beautiful doctors team up for difficult surgery." And they were definitely trying to hint that the two doctors were a couple. The beautiful girl in the story was Sarah. The guy was someone I recognized. He was the subject of an old note I'd found once, something Sarah had written 10 years ago at one of those mail-it-to-yourself-in-the-future places. The note had said, "Having a crush is torture. I'm just waiting for the one I love to be single." I had no idea what was going through her mind when she wrote that as a 21-year-old. But after finding that note and seeing this new article, a lot of her recent behavior started to make sense. His name was Alex Harrison. He was in the medical school class of '06. After he graduated, he went to work in neurosurgery at a big hospital in Washington, D.C., and had been there ever since. He came from a family of doctors, was 37, and had started college when he was only 16, so he was a few years ahead of Sarah in school. It was hard to find much about his college days online because it was so long ago, but he was described as a boy genius and an outstanding graduate. A recent announcement on the school's website said he was coming back to give a speech. The photo they used showed a very handsome man, and I suddenly recognized his face. It was the same boy who had appeared over and over in the photo albums at Sarah's parents' house. It was obvious they were childhood friends, probably sweethearts. I had asked her about that boy in the photos before. The pictures showed them together from when they were kids all the way through high school, and then he just vanished from the albums. At the time, Sarah had just brushed it off. She said he was just a boy from her old neighborhood, and their families were close, which is why they had so many pictures. She said they just drifted apart after his family moved to D.C. Alex's speech at their old university was on Saturday, June 29th. That was a day Sarah and I had planned to go to a used bookstore together. That morning, she seemed nervous, like something was on her mind. Finally, she told me that a doctor she really admired was giving a speech at her school, and she wanted to go see it. For some reason, I immediately thought of the announcement I'd seen about Alex Harrison. The university live-streamed all its lectures now, so I sat at my computer for 90 minutes and watched the whole thing. It was pretty boring, just the usual, I had a dream, I worked hard stuff that successful graduates always say. He mentioned a few interesting medical cases, but he was still pretty young, so they were mostly stories about things he learned from his mentors. If Sarah was really interested in the medical side of it, she could have just read the articles published by those senior doctors. I didn't think the speech was worth her time. But then, it hit me. They were childhood sweethearts. From the pictures, they seemed really close. It would be perfectly normal for them to meet up for lunch and catch up after all these years. So why couldn't she just be honest with me about it? Why did she have to lie and say it was just some doctor she admired? Sarah got back that evening. She was trying to act calm, but I could tell she was really happy about something. She came into the kitchen and took the spatula out of my hand to finish making dinner. I leaned against the doorframe with my arms crossed, just watching her. She was a tall, graceful woman, and she looked good even just stir-frying vegetables. "What did you have for lunch?" I asked. "Hot pot," she replied. "With friends?" I pressed. She glanced at me. "Why are you asking?" I smiled. A speech that could get you to drive all the way back to campus must have been pretty popular. I figured you might have run into some old classmates. She was quiet for a long time. She turned off the stove and started putting the food on a plate. All the hidden joy I had sensed in her seemed to disappear. "Yes," she said finally. "I ran into an old classmate. We talked for a long time." She tried to change the subject. "What about you? Did you find any books you wanted?" "Nope," I said, letting the disappointment show in my voice. "I didn't have any luck today." Sarah is a very smart and perceptive person. If she hadn't been so excited about seeing her old crush, she might have noticed things. She might have noticed when she came back to grab her car keys that my slippers weren't by the door, which would have told her I was probably home. I heard the door open and close. Through the security camera in the living room, I saw her, a woman who absolutely hated driving, grab her car keys. Then, using the app on my phone, I watched the dashcam footage of her driving Alex Harrison to the airport. "Next time I'll go with you on my next day off," she said, trying to sound reassuring. I promise we'll find a book you're interested in. Alex's home and job were in D.C. It's hard to keep a relationship going when two surgeons live in different cities. The little spark from their reunion seemed to fade out over time. But then, Alex was coming back. I found out, funny, enough from my own university's newsletter. My school was promoting a lecture series for outstanding young professionals, and Alex was one of the speakers. Monday, July 29th, at 9:00 a.m. His name was right in the headline. His resume was so impressive they were using him as the main draw. Monday, July 29th, was also the day Sarah and I were scheduled to try on our wedding outfits. We had to pick out 5 different ones for the photo shoot. She seemed hesitant before we left. As soon as we were alone in the elevator, she said, "Mark, the hospital is holding a free clinic today. I'd like to go, just for the morning. We can try on the outfits this afternoon." Her hospital did set up a free clinic booth out front, usually on Mondays, but this was late July in the South. It was miserably hot, like a steam room, even in the morning. Working outside in that heat was no fun. "Fine," I said. She was a saint, after all. I let her go. When she got back, I asked to use her phone. I pretended I wanted to find a coupon for Hot Pot, telling her there was a new user deal. But as soon as I had it, I opened her transit app and checked her subway history. Entry at her station, exit at the station for my old university. Getting to the university required 2 different train lines. The hospital was a straight shot on a different line. I closed the app and handed her phone back. "You know, you should probably go to the afternoon clinic session too," I said. "Something just came up at work." She didn't ask what it was. She just nodded. Maybe that was the moment I really started to doubt marrying her. The receptionist at the photo studio had called earlier that day. The couple scheduled for the afternoon had canceled. She asked if we wanted to swap our morning appointment for theirs. Since we were both so busy, getting it done today was the best option. I didn't tell Sarah about the call right away. I just waited. I wanted to see if she would stick to her lie, if she would really choose to go see Alex instead. I went to the photo shoot by myself that afternoon. The studio was completely unsympathetic. They said they wouldn't refund the difference for changing a couple's session to a single one. I was so angry I went to a barbecue place and ordered a 4-person combo meal just for myself. When I got home with all the leftovers, Sarah asked if I'd had a work dinner. I told her I was alone. She paused, then asked why I hadn't invited her. "You were busy," I replied. We had been dating for 3 years and living together for 2. She knew that when I get angry, I get cold and sarcastic. She usually didn't put up with it, but most of the time when she knew she was in the wrong, she would be the one to apologize. Like this time. Like right now. In the past, I would always soften when she apologized. I'd tell myself that we had our whole lives ahead of us and fights were normal. If 2 people want to spend their lives together, they have to be tolerant. And she was very tolerant of me in a lot of ways. But now, it all just felt pointless. Her apology was, as always, sincere. First, she'd admit she was wrong. Then she'd try to fix it. "I'll take tomorrow off," she said. "We can go try on the outfits together." I put the barbecue in the fridge and turned to look at her. My face felt like a mask. It was like she didn't even know me. I like to have my life planned out. When a plan gets messed up, especially when it's not because of some unavoidable emergency, I get frustrated. "So I have to take a day off too?" I asked. "In your mind, your job is a real job, but mine is just a hobby, right?" Regret flashed in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I'll take off a day that works for your schedule." "Don't bother," I replied. "If you don't care about it, it doesn't matter if we do it or not." Before I went into my study, I looked at her. You need to think seriously about whether you actually want to get married. Why didn't I just break up with her then? Why was I still willing to give her another chance? Because my whole life plan was built around her. My original idea was to get the marriage license first, and then confront her about Alex. I knew her. I believed that once it was all out in the open, she would let go of those old feelings. At least, that's what I thought until I saw the article about them in Beaumont. The night air in the suburbs was fresh. Chloe stood next to me, her voice so quiet it was almost lost in the wind. So why did you finally decide to break up? Do you think she went to the disaster zone just to see him? I just shook my head and smiled at her, because it feels like the universe is on my side. I looked at her, all the frustration from my fights with Sarah finally lifting. That photo from 10 years ago, the newsletter headline, the pictures from my old company, don't you think that's all a little too coincidental? And then tonight I drove out here, thinking I could get over how much I hate driving. But I can't. You have no idea how miserable I was on the drive over here with you. I hate driving. Period. I haven't met anyone or had any experience that makes it better. So just imagine. When Sarah chose to drive Alex to the airport, her excitement about being with him must have been so strong that it completely overpowered how much she hates driving. So, Chloe finished my thought. So, I said, everything that happens is for a reason. It's like a sign telling me not to wait until we're old and dying for Sarah to look back and wonder what would have happened if she'd been brave enough to chase the guy she really loved. I know none of that matters after you're gone, but just the thought of her thinking that, I can't stand it. Chloe was a Go player. I'd met her by chance. She was the world runner-up. We met at a strange little bookstore. For $10 a month, you could read any book in the store. The air conditioning was great, and I loved the atmosphere. But there was a rule. No books could be sold or checked out. If you wanted to read, you had to do it there. In today's world, not many people have time for that. Plus, the shop was in a hidden spot, so it was always empty. I only found it because I love digging for old books. When I saw it had a bunch of out-of-print editions, I felt like an idiot for spending $1,000 online for a set of old magazines. After we'd been outside for a while, I was about to offer Chloe a ride home when she held up her phone. We might have to wait a bit. If you don't like driving, calling a rideshare is always a good option. I hope you don't mind me saying that. Talking with Chloe was easy. We just seemed to understand each other, and she always said things I needed to hear. For instance, the day Sarah came back from Beaumont was a Saturday. She showed up at my apartment with her suitcase. Even in the dim hallway light, she looked exhausted. I thought about how her own apartment probably hadn't been cleaned in weeks, and how it would take her time to clean it, or hire someone. In a moment of weakness, I let her in. She just stood in the entryway. "Don't bother taking your shoes off," I said. "Just come in." The shoe rack by the door was already empty of all her things. "Do you want to sleep, or do you want to get something to eat?" Her tall figure stood in the middle of my living room. "You've already decided it's over," she said. "At least tell me why." I didn't hold back. I told her I knew about her old crush on Alex, and that she was clearly still hung up on him. To be honest, I wasn't angry that she had liked someone in the past, especially a guy as impressive as Alex. If she hadn't tried to lie and string me along, I would have just thought she had good taste. "I admit it," she said after I finished. Her face was blank. "I was wrong about that, but we haven't been in touch since his talk. Running into him in Beaumont was a coincidence. We're both at a point in our careers where volunteering there helps us get promoted. You should be able to understand that." "I do understand," I said. "And I believe you went there to help, not just to see him. But you know me. I believe in signs. The fact that I saw that article must mean your story with him isn't over, and that you and I were just temporary." There's no story to finish, Mark. He's married, he has a son, he's happy. I froze. I just stared at her. He's married? And you're still pining for him? That's messed up. So all your theories were just one big misunderstanding, Sarah shot back. I was wrong to hide seeing him, and I was wrong to keep that old note. I'm sorry. Can we just move on? Her voice was pleading, and for a second my heart softened. But I'm a stubborn person. Once I make up my mind, I rarely change it, even if I'm wrong. That day, we had the biggest fight of our lives. She had been working for 72 hours straight in a disaster zone, worried about her own feelings, only to come home to me. Anyone would have lost their temper. Mark, we're not 20 anymore, she said. We can't just break up whenever things get hard. You chose to marry me for practical reasons. You say I want it all, but what about you? You don't know how to be in a relationship. You just pick a partner who is convenient and useful to you. Do you have any idea how much I've put up with from you since we got together? Why can't you tolerate this one thing? It was like she was trying to get back at me for every time I had ever frustrated her. Watching her get so angry didn't make me feel bad. It just made me feel angry too. Then tell me, I said. How did I use you? She pressed her lips together and didn't say anything. But I knew what she was talking about. Besides my day job, I'm a novelist. After I met her, I asked her endless questions about neurosurgery and wrote a long medical drama. It got published, and I sold the movie rights for a lot of money. I'd done it before. My ex-girlfriend was a negotiator, and I used her professional knowledge to write a book about that, which I also sold. I had never hidden that from Sarah. You really think I only date women so I can write novels about their jobs? I said. That you're all just research for me? That's ridiculous, Sarah. If I wanted professional knowledge, I could hire a consultant. I can write these books and sell them because I have talent and I know the business. I'm not going to play emotional games with someone just for research. I'm better than that. And yes, I'm practical. I chose you because of your family, your education, and your looks. Why else would I choose you? Or do you think that because I came from an average family, I don't deserve someone as amazing as you? After I yelled all that, I watched her face get paler and paler. The last bit of affection I had for her just evaporated. Well, sorry to disappoint you, I said, but I think I'm pretty great. I deserve anyone I want. I slammed the door and left. It wasn't until I was a few miles away that I realized it was my own apartment I had just stormed out of. Chloe found me in an arcade. I was trying to win a stuffed animal from a claw machine. When you're in a bad mood, everything seems to be against you. The more money I put in, the more impossible it was to win. I was so angry I wanted to kick the machine. Chloe calmly put 3 tokens in the machine next to mine. You need a calm mind for Go, she said, and for the claw machine, too. She played once and pulled out the strawberry bear I had been trying to get. She handed it to me. You look like you're going through something. Need to talk? As an introvert, I usually keep my problems to myself. But that day, I followed Chloe to a scenic overlook, a place with a great view of the city lights. Whenever Chloe talked about life, she used Go as an analogy. It was a coincidence, but I'd had an idea for a novel about a female Go player for a long time. I just never wrote it because I don't know the first thing about the game. I recognized Chloe from watching tournament videos online when I was doing my initial research. Maybe she could give me the inspiration I needed for the book. Sometimes I hate how my mind works, always trying to be rational even when I'm a mess. I have a lot of flaws as a partner, I admitted, looking at the moon. I give the silent treatment. I don't communicate well. I admit all of it, but she tries to use my flaws to justify her own mistakes, and I just can't accept that. Chloe looked up at the moon, too. A rose's thorns are part of its beauty, even if they prick you, she said. In a relationship, 2 people should work through their problems and tolerate each other. That's how you build a life together. I know that, I said. I understand that. But I still liked what she said. Maybe someone like me, who always needs to be in control, is just better off being single. The second fight with Sarah happened after work on Friday, near my office. She tried to use Alex to convince me to take her back. She said that the first time she met with Alex after they both got back to Austin, she told him she was getting married. She insisted that since they both had families, all of their meetings had been completely appropriate and no lines were crossed. When she saw I was still frustrated, she grabbed my wrist. Her eyes were bloodshot and she looked desperate. "Mark, if you still don't believe me, I can have Alex talk to you himself." That was the last straw. I pushed her hand away and stared at her. "Have him explain it to me? What does he have to do with any of this?" I loved Sarah's maturity, her thoughtfulness, and how graceful she was. But in that moment, she just seemed cheap and pathetic. It was like a beautiful image had shattered, revealing something ugly underneath. I almost lost it. "You're the one who kept breaking promises to me for him. You're the one who kept lying. It's because you still have feelings for him that you were hesitating about our marriage. You call me practical. What about you? If he didn't have a family, if he were single, would you have come back begging me to forgive you? You only came back because you talked to him and realized you had no chance. You're busy with your career. You don't have the energy to start a new relationship, so you figured you'd just settle for me." After my outburst, I looked at her with tears in my eyes and sneered. "We're both messed up here. Neither of us is better than the other." She just looked at me with disappointment. "Mark, why do you always have to assume the worst in people?" Then she added, "Whether Alex had a family or not, my choice still would have been you." I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "I don't care," I said, my voice serious. "I don't care what you feel for me now. I don't care if you realized I'm the one you love, or if you've loved me all along. For me, a breakup is a breakup. What's done is done." I turned my back on her and walked away. I ran into Chloe again, this time at the movie theater. When I'm upset, I just want to find something to kill time. I was surprised to see her there because I knew she had hearing problems. I'd seen it in her tournament videos. She wore things in her ears that looked like earplugs. I thought they were hearing aids, but after I got to know her, I realized they weren't. She read lips when she talked to people. "Fancy seeing you here," I said, trying not to act surprised. "What are you seeing?" "Anything is fine," she said. "If you don't mind, we could watch together." I was a little surprised. A couple of the big movies out right now had great reviews, a sci-fi blockbuster and a war movie. Since it was a Friday, both were almost sold out. And I hate crowded theaters. So I had chosen an obscure horror movie that almost no one was seeing. It looked terrible, but sometimes you just do strange things. "I think I'll pass," I said, showing her my e-ticket. "This $10 horror flick can't be as good as the blockbuster. Don't waste your money." I assumed she was there to see one of the big films. Then her eyes lit up, and she held up her own phone. She had a ticket for the same terrible horror movie. She was the other person in the theater. How could two people make the same bad decision? The giant screen in front of us was playing ads, but my mind was stuck on how strange this coincidence was. "What happened tonight?" Chloe asked softly after we sat down. "You look so sad." I turned to look at her. She was wearing a white silk blouse and tailored pants, looking very polished. She even had on a pair of thin, gold-rimmed glasses I'd never seen before. "What about you?" I teased. "Dressed so formally. A blind date?" She laughed. "I asked you first." The movie started, but we just kept talking. I thought about how Sarah had called me practical and said I always assume the worst. "What kind of person do you think I am?" I asked Chloe. She thought for a moment. "Rational, sharp, confident, smart." She paused. "Are you testing my vocabulary?" Her comment made me laugh, and I started to feel a little better. "Can you believe," I said, "that I used to be honest, awkward, and timid? I'd get shy just talking to girls. If someone bullied me, I'd just pretend it didn't happen. I was so naive." "People who like to take advantage of others always target polite, gentle types," I continued. "The moment I decided I couldn't live like that anymore was on a bus one day. I had a seat, and this old man came up and just stood over me, clearing his throat and staring at me. I finally realized he wanted my seat, so I gave it to him, even though my feet were killing me from walking to job interviews all day. The thing is, the old man was perfectly healthy. The people around me could have given him their seats, but he picked me. I didn't want to give it to him, but I was afraid people would stare at me. The second I stood up, he shoved me aside and sat down without even a thank you. I just stood there, holding the rail, trying not to cry. Later, my novels started selling. Maybe money really does give you confidence. I gradually became more assertive. I wasn't afraid to argue with people anymore. I always felt like this change was a good thing, even though my parents said I'd become aggressive and materialistic. I was happy with who I'd become. As I spoke, I felt a wave of that old hurt. "The thing I hate most," I said, my voice catching, "is when my parents tell me that it's a blessing to be taken advantage of. Once I got into a huge argument with a driver who tried to change the price on me at the last minute. My mom overheard and told me to apologize, saying I should just endure things. That's when I realized I couldn't listen to them anymore. I moved to Austin, far away from them. I met Sarah during my most arrogant, self-absorbed year. But whenever I was with her, I still felt insecure. She was just so perfect. That effortless confidence from a good upbringing. It was everything I wanted to be. Before we broke up, she never called me practical. She said I was romantic. She said my caution was a good thing. I thought she loved me for who I was. Chloe handed me a tissue. After I thanked her, she suddenly said my name. "Mark." "Yeah?" I said, wiping my eyes. She usually called me by my full name, Mark Evans. "Is it possible," Chloe began, "that you didn't like her so much as you wanted to be her? To become the person you admired?" I gave a dry laugh. "What kind of logic is that?" "I read your book," she explained. "In the preface, you wrote that you loved mystery novels but were too intimidated to write one. Then you read another author's book and felt challenged, thinking you could write a great mystery too. And that's how your book came to be." She even quoted the epigraph from my book. "A person has two faces, one that floats on the surface and one that hides in the mirror." That book was an ancient historical mystery. It wasn't very good, but I loved it. "Writing it taught me an important lesson," I told her. "To accept that there are people in the world you can't surpass. If a person is constantly surpassing themselves, that's already pretty amazing." Hearing the excitement in my voice, hers became cheerful too. "I've learned another one of your good qualities," she said with a low laugh. "Perfectionism." After talking a bit more, I learned that Chloe often picked empty movies to practice her lip reading, but she didn't need to anymore. She had new earplugs that could selectively let in some sound. She'd come today just to see what it was like to hear the sound in a movie. The movie itself was even more boring than I'd expected. "What's wrong?" Chloe asked, noticing my sigh. "I was just thinking about a short horror story I read in middle school," I said. "I've forgotten a lot of the details, but I came up with my own theory about who the killer was." "That sounds interesting. Could you tell me about it?" she asked. "I'm sure it'll be more interesting than this movie." I was happy to share. A group of online friends go on a trip to a remote place. On the way, they hit someone with their car. It's a remote area, no cameras. They decide to leave the person and pretend nothing happened. But after they get to their cabin, they start dying one by one. In the end, it's just one guy, two girls, and a dog. The dog keeps barking at something outside. The guy takes his dog to check it out and never comes back. Then the lights go out. One of the girls goes to the door to find the light switch and looks outside. In the dark, she sees a pair of glowing green eyes staring at her. That's the end. At first, I thought the man they hit came back for revenge, I continued. But now I wonder. The dog's eyes were green. What if the killer was the dog's owner, the guy who went outside? What if he was afraid the others would go to the police, so he decided to kill them all? I'd love to know if my theory is right. It was 11 o'clock when we left the theater. As we walked down the street, I finally asked the question I'd been wondering about. "This," I said, pointing to my ear. "Can you tell me about it? I always thought you had a hearing impairment." Chloe stopped walking. "Do you really want to know?" I nodded. "Do you believe that some people in the world have special abilities?" "You mean you have a special ability?" I asked. "What is it?" "A sensitivity to the movement of tectonic plates," Chloe said, completely serious. "The Earth's crust is always moving. The vibrations come back to my ears as sound. It's very loud." I was stunned, not sure if she was joking. A moment later, she burst out laughing. "So, how's my imagination?" "I didn't actually think you were joking," I said. "So your hearing is excellent, like super hearing, but you can't control it? So you need the earplugs to block out the sound?" The smile on her face faded. After a long moment, she reached up and removed the earplug from her left ear. "Only once," she said quietly. "I heard your sadness and pain, so I wanted to see you. I'm not interested in any other sounds in the world, but I want to hear your voice. The other times we met," her words hung in the air. "The other times we met," she said, her expression soft and easy, "was because the universe is on my side too, so I always seem to run into beautiful things." I was so startled I instinctively turned and ran. After a few steps, I glanced back. It looked like blood was trickling from her ear, staining her white blouse. I had to stop. The first time I went to Chloe's house, it was as a journalist for an interview. She knew I was stuck on my Go novel and suggested I come over to ask questions and get a feel for a player's daily life. While I was there, a notification popped up on my phone. 3rd full year with Sarah. I had completely forgotten. My Notes app was filled with reminders like that, and lists of things I was trying to learn to do to love her properly. Last time, Chloe had suggested my affection for Sarah might be because I wanted to become her. Seeing this note, I realized she was probably right. "What's wrong?" Chloe asked, noticing my mood. "Last time," I said, "you suggested my feelings for Sarah might just be because I wanted to be her." I showed her the note on my phone. I think I'll never love someone like that again. It was obvious Chloe was interested in me, and I had been trying to avoid it, but I didn't want to lose her as a friend. I decided to just be honest. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Do you regret breaking up with her? Have you ever imagined what would happen if you just forgave her and moved on?" "Honestly, no," I said with a smile. "Between a lifetime of resentment over one thing and a lifetime of sadness over one person, I'll choose the sadness. My whole personality is about dignity." It wasn't surprising to see my books on her shelf, but they were in the most prominent spot, looking out of place with her other books. "Do you read fiction like mine too?" I asked. "I wanted to understand," she said. "Understand the books? Or understand me?" She looked surprised that I was being so direct. "Maybe I should be more direct," I said. "Do you like—" "Please," she cut me off, her eyes pleading. "Don't say it." Before my second visit to her house, I had already decided to give up on the Go novel. We were in her study again. She held up an old-looking horror magazine. "That short story you told me about," she said. "I think I found it. I read it. The killer is unexpected. Maybe we could discuss it." Her smiling eyes were filled with nothing but excitement. I don't dislike her. But after everything with Sarah, I wasn't ready for a new relationship. "Aren't you afraid?" I asked her. "Aren't you afraid I'm only getting close to you to use your expertise for a book, and then I'll just leave?" "What if I could be your endless source of inspiration?" she countered. I was struck by the sudden, overwhelming love in her eyes. I quickly looked away. "Starting a new relationship right after a breakup makes me look like a jerk," I said. It was an excuse, but it gave us both some room. "I know," she replied. "I'll wait until you're no longer hesitant. I will play my move without regret." Her voice was clear and strong. "I think I have a new idea." Epilogue. The first time Chloe saw Mark wasn't at the bookstore. It was at the beach. She watched him, dressed in a green shirt, taking pictures on the sand. Her special ability was real. She could sense and control the movement of tectonic plates. This power made her hearing so sensitive that she had to wear special earplugs every day to block out the sound, or it would damage her ears. That day, the deep sea was restless. She had been sent to investigate, and happened to see Mark. The sun was on the water, and the handsome young man was running along the sand. He looked like a god, and just seeing him from a distance felt like a blessing. The next time she saw him, it was at the music plaza. Mark was inside the bookstore, wearing a beige trench coat. He was rubbing the back of his neck, then picked up his coffee and looked out the window. The pigeons in the plaza seemed to be urging her forward. As she entered the store, he was putting a book back on the shelf. Chloe took the book he had just put back. It was a copied manuscript of a Go Master's notes. The owner of the bookstore allowed readers to leave comments in little notebooks tucked into the pages. Mark must have been the only one who had ever borrowed this book. Every few pages, there was a slip of paper filled with his sharp handwriting, full of questions. She got a membership and borrowed the book. She answered every one of his questions, writing her replies below his notes. For the next few weekends, she came back to the bookstore for 2 whole months. The day of the first snow in Austin was also a weekend. Chloe came to the music plaza holding 2 cups of coffee from the brand she'd seen Mark drinking. She thought that if she didn't run into him this time, it meant they weren't meant to be. Then she saw him, sitting in the same spot, wearing a black coat. The only thing missing was a cup of coffee. She walked in, ready to begin the connection that would bind them together.